What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on Fantasy Pros with a 10-team full PPR league where we will be picking 6th overall. Should be really interesting. Our roster, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. But that's pretty much it. So let's dive into it. And while we wait, a quick reminder, if you guys enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comment section, agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have. We'll do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let's get right into it. So, we're going to pull up the draft board, and I can already see something, crazy-ish happened. And by that, I mean McCaffrey didn't go at the 101. Instead, it was Bijan Robinson. Now, I'd still be taking Christian McCaffrey first overall, but I love the fact that Bijan Robinson is in consideration for that pick. I've been saying it all off season. I'm an old school guy. I think if you can get a elite running back, which McCaffrey, Bijan, and Breece Hall are, then you pull the trigger on that early on in the draft. So that's what we're seeing here with Bijan and McCaffrey. Then it was CD, Tyreek. We're picking 6th overall. My heart got broken with Breece Hall being selected here at the 105, but that's kind of been the trend lately. People are coming around to the fact that these 3 running backs are elite and that they deserve, if not going 1, 2, 3 respectively, at least 3 out of the first 5 picks being at the running back position. So don't be shocked if you're picking 106 here like we are and you don't have a running back fall to you. So with that being the case, I'm going to pivot. Now, I mean, we could draft somebody like a Jahmyr Gibbs or Jonathan Taylor or Saquon Barkley, but I think that would be a little bit of a reach at this point in time. So I'm going to go with a wide receiver. I'm going to go particular here with Jamar Chase and see what happens afterwards if we get lucky or not. But we're kind of in this little bit of a dead zone where with this 6th overall pick, we're in the middle. I recently, did a breakdown of where I think the best draft spot is. I said it's towards the end of the draft. So like the last pick, the second to last pick. If it's a 10-team league, maybe the 3rd to last pick, because otherwise you miss out on that tier drop. And you are going to have to look at tier 2 wide receivers, tier 3 running backs, things of that nature. So that's exactly the spot we were in here. So regardless if we had gone with a running back or with a wide receiver, there would have been a drop-off afterwards in the 2nd round with who we're selecting. And what do I mean by that? Look, after Jamar Chase, it was Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, Garrett Wilson, Saquon Barkley. Then you're able to pair up Barkley with an A.J. Brown in the 2nd round. A Garrett Wilson with a Jahmyr Gibbs. Amon-Ra with a Jonathan Taylor. I don't care, what the situation is. These last 3 picks right here, those tandems are going to be the best tandems throughout the first 2 rounds unless something crazy happens. Now, I've already got a wide receiver, so I'm not going to force a Marvin Harrison selection here, Devontae Adams, Drake London, something like that. I do like Kyren Williams. I have him ranked a little bit higher than Travis Etienne. So I want a running back 1 on the squad. I'm going to go with Kyren Williams here, and we will see what's left available to us in the 3rd round. So pulling up the draft board again, after we went Kyren Williams, was Marvin Harrison. Huge run on wide receivers, actually. Marvin Harrison, Devontae Adams, Debo, Drake London, Nico Collins, Derrick Henry, then Travis Etienne, Pacheco, Sam Laporta, and Travis Kelce. So here we could go a quarterback, but I think it's too early. I'm looking at some of these wide receivers, and I think there's really good value with Olave and with Jalen Waddle. They would be my choices. If I'm going running back, I've highlighted before why Achane scares me. I think it's a crowded backfield. I think there's volume concerns. And I think that he's just, simply put, not going to be as efficient as he was last year. So with all those things being said, I will pull the trigger on a wide receiver here. And the wide receiver I'm looking at is probably Chris Olave. So let's do that. But, Jalen Waddle is a close second. And speaking of Jalen Waddle, he is actually still left on the board. So something that happened here that, hindsight is 2020, right? I think that we could go with a Jalen Waddle here. He's still there. Or we can go with an Alvin Kamara to have a little bit more of a balanced roster. I think he's one of those last pretty decent running backs. Him, Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon potentially too. But in regards to full PPR, I like Kamara. The problem is I already have Chris Olave, so that's why I was saying hindsight is 2020. We could have gone maybe Jalen Waddle first, and then potentially gotten Alvin Kamara, and I'd feel better about it. But you can't predict these things, especially in a snake format. So I will, I think, for the sake of going best player available and just filling out the way this roster makes sense, be going Alvin Kamara. But looking at the rest of these picks, Josh Allen, Achane, Hurts, Mahomes, they go at the end of the third round. Then Jacobs, Cooper Kupp, James Cook, Rashad White. Cooper Kupp would have also been in consideration, but then you run into the same issue having Kyron Williams and Cooper Kupp. If Rashad White and James Cook were there, I would have gone them over Alvin Kamara more than likely. But yeah, this pick is basically between Jalen Waddle and Alvin Kamara. But I just think if we don't grab a running back right now, we are going to be hurting in the, what would it be, fifth round. So we're going Alvin Kamara. If Kenneth Walker is still somehow there, I'm going to pull the trigger on Kenneth Walker in the fifth round. I think it becomes a really good value. And he is. Whew, all right, we're in a good spot, folks. So after Kamara is Mike Evans, Lamar, Brendan Ayuk, Jalen Waddle, McBride, DK, Christian Kirk, Anthony Richardson, Joe Mixon, Michael Pittman. There's still really, really good value here in the fifth round. DJ Moore, Kenneth Walker, Mark Andrews, and Dalton Kincaid. I really like Dalton Kincaid, but I want to get another running back to, help the depth also, again, so that the Kamara and Olave thing isn't as big of an issue when you have more running back depth. So I will go Kenneth Walker here. And then, I'm going to lose out on DJ Moore. I'm going to lose out on Dalton Kincaid probably. Yeah, we got sniped on Kincaid by one pick. Holy cow. Yeah, that's the way it goes. Also, I'm surprised that, there weren't too many running backs selected. I'm looking at the names and it's like, only Javonte Williams was selected, which that's not a pick that makes sense. He shouldn't be going that early. So, again, maybe we could have gone Kincaid first and then hope Kenneth Walker drops, but I don't see a scenario where Kenneth Walker wouldn't have been selected here instead of the Javonte Williams pick. So, yeah, I'm not going to overthink it. I like Kenneth Walker. Let's continue on forward. Here, I'm looking at the picks. I could go with the tight end Evan Ingram or Kyle Pitts. I'm looking, these three teams already have tight ends, so I got to survive basically, these two guys right here. I'm going to take a chance and wait on tight end with Evan Ingram and or Kyle Pitts. I'm going to select a wide receiver. I've already got Jamar Chase, so even though I like T. Higgins, I'm not going to be selecting him. I like Terry McLaurin with the quarterback upgrade, and, I'm going to add him to the squad here. So let's see what happens now. We had, after McLaurin, C.J. Stroud, Zay Flowers, Ramondre, Dak, Rashee Rice, Joe Burrow, Godwin, Pickens, James Conner, Aaron Jones. There go some quarterbacks, right? But there's still some good running back depth. There's still some really good wide receivers. Higgins, Tank Dell, Calvin Ridley. Running backs, Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Zamir White. All very real possibilities. Here, Evan Ingram, Kyle Pitts. Let's go with one of those selections. I'll go with, I've said this before, I have them pretty much the same place. Yeah, if we waited on tight end here, we probably would get burned on it. So I'm going to go with, this time around, I'll go with Evan Ingram. But I think they are right there, neck and neck. So let's go with Evan Ingram. Both these guys have a Week 12 bye. I've said this before. The bye week situation doesn't worry me too much. You're going best player available. So here it says again, there's a 100% chance he would have been there. You can't predict those things. Because, again, if you look at the draft board, both these teams needed a tight end, and, the teardrop would have happened. So I'm not upset I got Evan Ingram where I did. Now we can go ahead and see, again, best player available, right? Going to the cheat sheet, Deontay Johnson, I think, is a good pick here. The number one for Carolina in a full PPR scoring. I like that. So let's go with Deontay Johnson, continue to add wide receiver depth, and then see what happens with these other selections. Jonathan Brooks, not a bad pick. I saw him go a little bit at the end of the 8th round. But again, he is a stash guy. He's a guy that's going to be hurt, and it's going to take some time for him to get, to play. So Kyler Murray's still available. I think he becomes a good value pick at this point in time. We could go Jaden Daniels with the Terry McLaurin stack, even though we technically have McLaurin on our bench. So I don't mind Brian Robinson, but let's go. Let's practice good value again. Let's go with Kyler Murray. When healthy, the guy's typically a top 10 running quarterback. Excuse me. Now going back to the draft board, a lot of running backs selected here. Let's break it down. Jalen Warren, Austin Eckler, then some tight ends, David Njoku, Jake Ferguson. But then afterwards, Nick Chubb, Chase Brown, Zach Moss, Brian Robinson. There goes Brian Robinson. So I think Jerome Ford here is not a bad selection because nobody really knows what's going to happen with Nick Chubb, right? So I'm going to get Jerome Ford. I think he's a solid start of the season type of pickup. Let's add him. Devin Singletary, I know he's the starter in New York, but I'm not really all that enthused about that New York offense, especially on the ground, I should say. Now, looking at this, I think Blake Corum becomes a really good handcuff at this point in time. He's still there. And, when you can practice good drafting strategies like this, getting your handcuffs, I think it makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to do that in case something happened to Kyren Williams. I have a very solid backup running back. So I like that situation for us. Now we can make one last selection here and see what we're working with. Brian Thomas, not a bad pick. Josh Palmer, Curtis Samuel is banged up. So let's go with Brian Thomas, the number 2 in Jacksonville, even though I already do have Evan Ingram. But I think Brian Thomas is going to have a solid rookie year. If not Brian Thomas again, Josh Palmer. I guess we could go Josh Palmer since Ladd McConkey's dealing with an injury. We got a lot of options, basically. Yeah. So let's go with Josh Palmer, and that'll be our final pick. And then we'll see our draft grade. I'm curious to see the draft grade we get. We get a C+ grade. Honestly, I think our draft is better than a C+. We've got a top 10 quarterback in Kyler Murray. We've got 2 solid running backs in Kyren Williams, Alvin Kamara. We were able to get Kenneth Walker, who I think can surprise some people. Also, we got Blake Corum as our handcuff. We got Jerome Ford. Wide receivers, we've got a stud in Jamar Chase. We got great value in Chris Olave. I like Terry. I like Deontay Johnson. I think Josh Palmer is a solid sleeper. So honestly, I think this is a B-B type of draft. But hey, let me know your thoughts. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.